Alright, hello everyone, my name is Disc. I'm a title healer from the War Within, and this is a 17 Windrunner Spire as Voidweaver. So this was not a perfect key, it was a timed key. I'm playing with the one and only melee, the Ret Paladin. And a lot of the mistakes, well let me say it differently, a lot of the deaths were actually myself. And I don't think it was talent related, I think it was more just not knowing the boss fights too well. But what I have done is, before we go into this key, I've researched the boss. I've watched the boss back. It's third boss we're talking about. I've pinpointed where the errors were. They were mainly with my timing and a complete misunderstanding of the boss. But I've done some research and maybe skipped that boss if you'd like to. But hopefully in watching this, you can learn from my mistakes. In watching this back, I've learned from my mistakes. That's the point of me playing beta, is to just kind of get a head start on the season and figure things out and then pass that information to anyone who's watching. So I don't really think I want to dwell too much in this intro, but as Voidweaver in this key, I was at 60,000 damage per second, which was more than half of the nearest DPS's damage. And then overall, compared to the group, it was about 12% of the group's damage. And the only reason I'm highlighting that is because there was a comment on my channel talking about you only do 3% of a group's damage and it's negligible. And I heard Jack say that, and I'm not really trying to throw shade at all, but it's just the fact of the matter is Voidweaver with these buffs does do more damage. I think doing damage is fun. I think if you can keep people alive, doing damage is fine. But we do have examples in here where I couldn't keep people alive. So it's, I think we're seeing, you know, maybe the shortcomings of Voidweaver. And approaching 18s, I really can't see myself playing Voidweaver. But this was not an IO key. This is just beta. I was doing this for sport. I was doing this to test the build. And again, we'll see it in the video. It's not a secret. The mistakes here that led to my death were not spec related. It was just misunderstanding of the fight. And, you know, if I could do this again, I would do better now that I know it better. But, yeah, I guess let me just flash talents to show everyone. This is the Voidweaver build I'm playing. There's not too much to it. Banking into Torment. If you are completely unfamiliar with how to play Voidweaver, please stay tuned for my standalone Voidweaver video. I think it will be good content to learn from. But, yeah, I guess without rambling anymore, let's go ahead and clip over to the key. All right, here we go. So even though this is Voidweaver, please take this video as like a lesson in how to play the dungeon better. And I still think you can get that information, and we're going to talk about it, but through the lens of Voidweaver. So this first pull's a Hail Mary. First pull's a great place for a mass dispel. We will see magic dots go out in party using grid 2, opening with a handful of natural dots, a penance to spread more dots. Evangelism's out, PI's out. Mass Dispel looks like it got 3 magic dots. That's good. And since Evangelism is our open, I'm really trying to get value here with my Torments first, before I do the uppies. Okay, but here goes the second rift. The second rift, I'm not getting the Torments, so I prioed my 3 smites for the extension, then straight into uppies. So the penance bolts from uppies do count towards the rift's growth. And some executes there for free pets. Okay, so pretty much everything's on cooldown. Let's see how this pull goes. Did this key yesterday? Don't quite remember. Okay, I have 2 dots, 2 natural dots in the field. We have more magic dots here. Dispel one and kind of babysit the other. Also, I will say, it was part of the way through this key, I was sitting in Discord for Melee to join. He didn't, he was busy, but then my other friend joined, and I got distracted. Not making excuses, and I forget exactly where it happened, but there was a point in this key when I was catching up with an old friend rather than focusing. Okay, let's see. We do have Evangelism. Evangelism was played. And these pulls are great places for Shadow Meld if you have it, or your Psychic Scream. So there's a Firebolt Volley, I think is what it's called. You can actually see it displayed on party frames, or you can see it displayed on cast bars, I guess. And I think you might have to replay that. I think it does trigger as an important cast, quote unquote important cast. Yeah, it does. So it'll highlight Aqua. Okay, we just got PI back. And we have Poison Dispels in here. A word to the wise is I would not come into this dungeon without at least one Poison Dispel in party. Okay, I set my focus early. We have PI. Ooh, no dots. Ouch. Okay, we can see those poisons on grid 2. Grabbed and execute. Still no dots in the field. This was a really bad play for the mini game of dot spread. That's something you have to always think about. Here goes my next rift. We have this tiger that jumps around. Okay, we have some executes in field. Let's see if I get them. Yep. Okay, we do have evangelism now. I believe I play it. And that is a really good play of evangelism, probably the best opener you can get. So replay that if you'd like. But I evangelism for a free pet. I grabbed an execute for a free pet. And then I cast Mind Blast Penance. And both of those are torment spells. So I think it was like 3 pets that were out tormenting from those. Getting torments off Mind Blast is where you can gain a lot of value. Okay, watch this rift. Collapsed it early. So you've probably heard me talk about it before, but having an extra keybind for a macro / cancel aura Entropic Rift, very important for this build. There are a lot of plays where you have the freedom to send another rift, but its duration will outlast the mobs. So you want to cancel it early to get the value. Okay, let's see. So this was a very premature rift, but I'm just trying to get the damage grab. And on this big mob here, the Lasher, Spore Dispersal is what you have to watch for. It's group rot, and it can get away from you. And I didn't have the group atoned there. So I think it goes without saying, if you're going to go into uppies, you need to have the group atoned first. I guess it probably happens to everybody where you make that mistake sometimes. But yeah, going into an uppies with no atonements in group is a big miss. Okay, so here's the second dispersal. I used my defensive of Fade. Evangelism's out for the free pets. And this pull, we're back to the Fire Spit, I think is what it's called. So a great place to practice your Psychic Scream. Great place to meld if you have it. Grabbed and execute there. And I think as a group, we actually have this Fire Spit well under control. That was my Psychic Scream. Did I get one? I blinked. I think I might have got something there. Okay, and then going into the next boss, we can go ahead and talk about it. We have intermission phases that are as heavy group dam. And then 2 target cleave you have to watch for. And I think the trickiest part is the cadence on open. So you have the 2 target cleave straight into the intermission. So I think I play Rift on open. It might have been better to play to like hold Rift for the first Burning Gale. And we, I think, almost get in trouble. Let's watch. Okay, we can see the 2 target cleave on party frames. The defensive penance here is going to really help. Okay, here comes the intermission, and my rift is already expired, so we're not in a good spot. Okay, so I go into an evangelism. Yeah, I think a better play of spells there is kind of manually get through that first 2-target cleave, hold your rift for the gale. Okay, I'm selected. Defensive penance into melee, the second target since I'm covered. And that was my macro for both of my personal defensives, Fade and Desperate Prayer together. And since my personals are down on this one, personal paints up. Okay, here we go. This time I have the rift. We still almost died. Let's call that a weakness of Voidweaver. It probably would have been more cush if I didn't have to move so much. That kind of hurt my output. I had to sacrifice Void Blasts. Okay, defensive penance for melee. But we got through there with the plays from the team. So I think we had good defensives from the mage. I think we had off healing from melee. But we got through. Okay, so we have evangelism. And we're going to want that here for this Burning Gale. And I think we're covered this time. Yeah, boss is almost down, so I went ahead and played my personals. Yeah, and you can see the difference there with evangelism and that extra pet out, the extra healing. It was a lot more comfortable of a gale. I also think I had the freedom to kind of stand still a little bit more. But overall, not a problem. I think I had some bad RNG with my placement, but there were no deaths thanks to the team. I do think a good key comes from the entire team, not just the healer. So we have Uppies up. It came up at the tail end of the boss fight. We have PI. And I think we want to send here. I'm giving PI to the DK. He's outperforming the rest of the team. PI's out. 2 natural dots. I get my Dispel. A Radiance into the Rift. Then into Uppies. And honorable mention, quick shout out to the author of the add-on Voodoo Caspar. I really love playing Voidweaver and having my Caspar show the color of the spell school. It kind of plays into the fantasy of the role. I think it also helps in a couple different ways. Ooh, execute for 4 pets, 4 torments. It helps in a couple ways to kind of know where I am in my rotation when my smites go from purple back to yellow. It kind of just looks nice. Okay, here we go. So these guys, the devoted Lowbringers. Whoa, is that interruptible? Maybe I don't know that mechanic fully. But they do group-wide damage. Really important to place your heals there. And yeah, maybe I don't know the mechanic. Is it interruptible? If maybe someone could let me know. But it looks like here we have the poisons are interruptible. Switching targets for my dot spread. But this is a dungeon, if you're trying to practice utilizing and maximizing your Psychic Scream, this is a great place to get in good practice of it. 2 dots and a penance to spread my dots. I want to find my focus early. The big guy. Darker red. And this gets a little messy on Melee's part, if I remember. So thankfully I PI the DK. Lust is out. And Melee's down. I don't know what happened to him. He was rezzed and down again. Ouch. So these polls, watch party nameplates, there are poisons that go out. You have to heal those. It's a non-dispellable poison. It's more of just a damage over time. But we also have dispellables. And a slight critique of myself is probably a-okay, but evangelism did come up a handful of seconds ago. I could have gotten a little more value here. But it's okay. Evangelism at the top of a pole sometimes is better utilized than at the tail end of a pole. It would just be like kind of a damage grab, you know? Okay, paying close attention to party frames for those attacks, defensive penance into myself to live, and we have evangelism. So I select the big guy. This is the same big guy that does heavy group dam. I'm delaying my rift a little bit to make sure it covers the damage. And I open with evangelism here. Weaved in a spot heal for the mage. And I'm going to have to watch these back. Is that attack from the Woebringer interruptible? Maybe if someone else knows. Okay, just got my second rift. Here goes my second rift. Switch targets for dot spread. Got an execute that did not spawn a pet. Blizzard, I'd really like that to be 100% like the talent says. There was another death that did not spawn a pet. 2 in a row. Okay, and then on this boss, 2-target cleave is a great place to practice dot spread just with penance. You really don't want to cast a dot, waste of mana, waste of a global. So just switch targets back and forth. And we're kind of only watching for 2 attacks. So we have this one. It is not an upfront attack, it doesn't look like. It is just an attack that leaves a dot behind. So great place for your rift. And then we also have the debilitating shriek. We'll see in a second. That's where we want to time heals. But here's another one of the poison attacks. I play my fade, and I backload a radiance. Very important as Voidweaver to utilize the upfront heal of casting the Mind Blast itself. And then that was the shriek. So we had evangelism and rift to cover the first shriek. I believe we play the uppies on the next shriek. So there is a little bit of an upfront attack, actually. A great place for your void shields. Always a great place for your fade. And Mage is doing a good job here with the decurses, but I can't say I know that mechanic too well with the adds. It doesn't look like you kill them. If anyone knows better, just if you could let me know. I actually don't know what you're supposed to do with the add. Mage down, he didn't move quick enough. Okay, I'm selected. This kind of sucks because I need to go into uppies. But I get into place. Thankfully the group was atoned already, minus the tank and myself it looks like. But straight into uppies and we got through. Okay, here comes more poison. We do have PI as well. Okay, I evangelism and PI this one. And food for thought on Void Shield as Voidweaver. I'm trying to only use it when I have a 10 stack. And if you play your cards right there with a precast, I think that one I did it. But you can watch the enemy cast, which I have placed right above my own cast bar, and precast like a Radiance or your Mind Blast on top of theirs for quick recovery of that upfront damage. But I think the adds, if I had to guess there, it looked like you just run, you don't kill, and they despawn. Maybe someone can chime in and help me out. And these poles, I could have done better. We can talk about the placement of my rift. So the rift, I think, goes without saying, follows the person you cast it on. You don't want to cast it on mobs like this that run out of the group. So better placement would be on one of the lesser mobs, not the bigger mob. Then it will stay in the party. Let's see. And I wish I had weak R's here to help me track that interrupt. Okay, we have evangelism, switch targets for dots. Switch my targets for dots. And I guess the best you can do here is watch nameplates for the interrupt. Okay, just got PI. Here goes another rift. We have executes in field, grabbed one, hallelujah. And melee down. Okay, here's interrupting screech. I'm not sure if doubling this pull is standard or ideal. Oh my gosh, melee down again. He's going to be so embarrassed I'm posting this. But, you know, if I had weak R's again, what I would do with those interrupt spells, I would bring those cast bars up on my screen in a fixed location. So I didn't have to worry about which nameplate am I watching, is the nameplate moving. But I guess that's what you have to do now, is just watch the nameplates and be more in tune with that. Okay, so going to this next boss, this is where I had a lot of mistakes due to not knowing the fight. We're going to call them out. Okay, evangelism and rift. I should have a 10 stack of void coming up here. And played it. Arguably, I should have played it when it was at a 9 if you were watching me. But whatever. Okay, here goes my second rift. We have executes. Hell yeah, I procced 3 pets. And you guys probably know this already, but a lot of trash pulls kind of start auditioning the attacks you're going to see on boss. And that's what we have here. So this big guy who I have targeted, I think it's called Flame Nova. We're going to see it on boss fight. And it's one of the areas where I messed up. Yeah, Flame Nova. So we also see in party, there are bleeds that go out. They're marked as traditional bleeds. They highlight as a darker red on party frames, like right there on the DK. So we're going to see the Flame Nova on boss, and we're going to see this light ticking bleed damage on boss. And we're also going to see the Chain Lightning. I believe the Chain Lightning is interruptible by your fear. Grab and execute. Death and Penance as my rotation. So I think the Chain Lightning, I wish I would have tested it here just so you would know, but I think you want to fear that if you can. You have to watch for the ticking bleed damage, and you have to watch for the Fire Nova, Flame Nova. And then this is just a rinse and repeat. Open with Evangelism. I have a bleed on me, so both of my personals are used. But let's go ahead and switch over to talking about the boss. This is where I made a lot of mistakes, but I've learned from them, so hopefully I can pass that info to you, and you won't make those mistakes. Oh wow, 4 pets at once, love it. So the boss has phases at 66% and 33%. That was something I didn't know. Okay, sent my rift. I'm going to cancel it early here. But at 66 and 33, there's a group-wide slam. So there's really no rot damage here. There's just bleed damage, which is single target bleed damage. Oh, where'd the audio go? Single target bleed damage and then group-wide hits. So the group-wide hits come at 66 and 33. The group-wide hit also comes from the Flame Nova when adds spawn. The boss himself, like right here, has single target dot damage. Also, when that add spawns, we have single target dot damage. So it's just managing group hits, knowing when they are, and then also monitoring for the single target dot damage. And then other than that, it cycles. So until we get to 66%, we're just going to see this over and over. Mage is selected. I catch that with party friendly nameplates. And we also have some mismanagement with teamwork when it comes to the stacking. It's kind of funny in hindsight. We'll see it when we get there. Okay, we're approaching 66%. What I would do in hindsight, I just played Evangelism. It would have been better to backload that Evangelism as a reaction. And this is another area where I misplay a lot. So I had a bleed on me. I should have been anticipating a Flame Nova. I had Desperate Prayer. I should have given myself a Desperate Prayer and probably a Defensive Penance, and we would have gotten through. The other big miss from myself there, and I only know this because I did research, when the boss is Blade Storming, he doesn't take any damage. And I don't know that because I have the CVAR turned off for floating combat text. Ooh, yikes. Sorry, melee. Health potion. But in the intermission phase, it would behoove you to attack the adds. It would behoove you to fear the adds on the Chain Lightning. And watch for the Flame Nova. That's where you want to time your group heals. And then so now we're approaching... this is where we have misplay. Oh gosh. So we're approaching 33. This is where we can expect group-wide attacks. This is where we might want to backload our Radiance, our Evangelism. Okay, so we have Evangelism. I sent my Rift already. I would say that's jumping the gun. Okay, yeah, I played my Evangelism, but it's just in poor rotation here. And I'm sending a lot of my attacks into the boss who's not taking damage. So a lot of misplays here. I know better now. Hopefully anyone who's watching me play this fight, you won't make these mistakes. And now the fight's pretty much over. So again, in conclusion, 66 and 33, you can expect a group-wide hit from the boss. Another group-wide hit you can expect is from the Flame Nova when the adds spawn. And then we have single target dot damage. Dead again. So single targets come from the boss. The boss is the bigger one. However, the adds also do single target dot damage. Those are lesser, but they will highlight on party frames. And then you have a stacking mechanic that kind of goes without saying. I think I died to ground damage. I'd have to replay that. Or maybe I just died from the rot. I don't know. But yeah, all I can say is I would do it better next time. But go team. Who needs a Voidweaver Priest anyway? We're just doing 3% of the damage, right? So. We've done it. Okay, going into last boss. I think the last boss is actually easier. So we have to manage the little arrows on the ground. Arrows will clear your dot. Arrows will also jump you over the mechanic. There's single target attack that's really not too threatening. I would say the biggest thing to do with that single target attack is just not share it. And we do have a death midway, which kind of makes this boss drag, but we time. Okay, let's see. PI's out. And I just sent my Rift. I think if next time I come here, I'd probably send Rift on open. I wouldn't delay it like that. That damage is not too big. And also right here, I would have played Evangelism if I could do it over. I'm just doing Rift with no Evangelism. It does cover, but we're losing uptime on Evangelism. That'd be a perfect place for it. Okay, we still have Evangelism. Okay, I sent it now. So I want to take the arrow after I get my smites. It's better to send the arrow on something like a channeled penance. Okay, yeah, and we have that as a group-wide hit. It's a 5-target hit. It's pretty minimal. I think you just don't want to stack. I think that's what happened to the mage. But I did use my personals to get through that. And here's the Bolt Gale. You can see on the DK there, he has a personal running, but it really didn't do much to him. So I guess you can play paint subs there just to get value. But I think the biggest thing to do is just not share that attack. I use my penance on the jump. We also have uppies. Okay, here goes a rift. I wait until I have a penance to step on the arrow. Fade to reduce this damage. Second PI is out. And here comes the single target attack. I believe it's on me, so let's watch how small this is. I give myself a paints up. I guess it actually kind of hurts. So potentially it's something you want to paints up. It looks like other than the paints up, just atonement healing covered it. Okay, let's see how I play this. Evangelism in the air. Nice play. We're going to execute, so we're going to get free pets. Love it. Okay, I executed into my rift, preferred rotation. I got a lot of free torments from the cast of the rift and the penance. And my last play here is my final evangelism of the key. I get a massive shield, a sack from the ret. That attack, don't even touch me, and everything's on cooldown. So, I had fun playing this. I was hella distracted in Discord with my friend Tudor. But this was not for IO, it was just for sport to kind of have fun with my preferred spec and try and get a new Windrunner on my channel. So I think Windrunner was the key I've covered least. So I wanted to get one more up here to hopefully, before midnight launches, cover things I hadn't covered and give better examples of what to do and what not to do. And I think that mission was accomplished, mainly in third boss. So again, maybe rewatch third boss if you want to see the errors and want to hear how I cover the mechanics. But yeah, let's see what else. Stay tuned. I'm going to do an Oracle video and a Voidweaver video standalone. I'm going to try and make them like under 10 minutes. So they're kind of just info-dense reference guides for anyone who is interested to hear what I have to say, or maybe is newer to the spec and just wants a quick overview. But 60,000 damage per second, that's about 12% of the groups overall. And that's about 50% of the nearest DPS output. Fun spec. I hope it gets some buffs, so it's maybe even more viable. But Oracle I still think is the way to go, pushing into high keys. I think if you're running 15s and under, Voidweaver is completely viable. I think it's probably even viable in 18s as long as you have a good group. But Oracle is a lot more defensive. Being able to prevent damage is very powerful in keys, whereas Voidweaver is more atonement based and more recovery of health with green atonement healing rather than preventing damage. So it's a lot more spiky. It demands you know the dungeons, which I didn't, and it also demands that you are good with the spec. But with all that being said, stay tuned for future videos. Stay tuned for updates on my Medify. Go check me out over there. Please give a like, comment, and a sub to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. And until next time, Disc out.